that house? Okay. I figured I learned about it when I read, I've been gone on a trip, when I read comments and like, what the heck, house? House, okay. Yeah, make sure it zooms in on her.
Yeah. You've got somebody. I actually sent the second survey, so the one that's going right now is the second survey. I can talk about it when we update. So, yeah. So it's two. Yes. How are you?
That's cool.
They're coming in. I'm hoping for the firm. Oh, crap, I got the band. I forgot about it. That's good.
The band that never closed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's great. How did that go?
Good. Really good.
Dave,
I'm good.
I'm so happy to just sit for a minute. Just sit for a minute. I know, I'm trying to catch up on everything I didn't do.
How are you? We'd like to go ahead and get started. Want to say that Councilmember Atkinson said she would be a little bit late tonight in getting here, but that's okay. We're going to start off with welcoming everybody for our city council meeting for this August 13th. And we're going to start with a prayer or thought and follow up with a pledge by Councilmember Allred will be doing that for us. So.
Our dearest Heavenly Father, we're so very grateful for our blessings and especially to be able to live in Hyde Park with so many good people and the beauty that we have here. We're grateful for all our blessings. And Father, help us tonight that we might be able to have wisdom and inspiration as we look at the different items on our agenda, that we can consider them and that we might be able to consider what they would bring in the future and how they impact the present also. Help us and guide us, and we pray for thy spirit now and thy blessings to be upon all our citizens in our city. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Stephanie. First item that we have is to review and approve the minutes from July 9th. And I appreciate Gerald taking care of that when I was out of town as well. So
Was I here? Did I do that?
Better check the fence.
I appreciate the senior
Hopefully
movement as
you-
well.
Okay, all right. It's just been a while.
Yes, yes. But, Kurt, do you have any comments?
No.
Carol?
No.
Stephanie?
That one, did you get my text?
I did get it, but it is in there. It's just a little further down than.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's,
So nothing.
Okay,
And I'm.
and you're good?
No problem.
So having none, no comments, I would look for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 9.
I move that we approve the meeting, the minutes from the July 9th.
Got a motion to approve by David
I'll second it.
and second by Stephanie. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Motion carries 4-0. The next item on our agenda is to receive citizen input on questions or comments to the council and myself. There should be. those-
Here, Mayor, we still need to approve the.
Oh, the agenda that we have. I missed that one. We also need to look at the agenda. I don't have any other amendments as I looked through it last couple days and changes, so we'd look for the motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion from Kurt
I'll second.
and a second from Gerald. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? It also carries 4-0. The next item is to receive input for the council and myself for items that aren't on the agenda. Please try and keep it at the 3-minute time. And for items that aren't on the agenda, relevant for the city and the council to review and to ponder on your comments. Let's see, the items brought forward to this attention of the city council will be turned over to staff, and hopefully we can get some response, and that may require a lot of research and such outside of a city council meeting tonight. So we'd like to open this time for resident input currently. Amanda, or Amanda's designee. Oh, okay. All right.
All right, Amanda Rouse, 506 North, 350 East. I'm here because I'm concerned about an ongoing unlicensed short-term rental that's being operated by Nate Rubin at 465 North, 350 East. For a little bit of background, on July 24th, neighbors noticed people were staying on the property while he currently was renting it to someone else who was living there, so a tenant. We verified the tenant had left the ADU that same day. He was renting it short-term rental, which is against code 12.30.210C8. The property was also listed on Airbnb VRBO. I reported this to the city administrator, city planner, and the planning commission head on July 28th, because I know that was Pioneer Day. Everyone's out of town. July 28th, the city confirmed there was no business license for this property, which is against code to run a short-term rental without a license. The same day, I then reported the listing to Airbnb that it was not allowed in my neighborhood due to no license. In short, Airbnb told me the best thing you can do is to talk to the homeowner. I forwarded my message from Airbnb to the city. On August 1st, my husband personally reached out to Mr. Rubin, telling him, "You are running an Airbnb without a license." He said he was working on it. The fire marshal had been there previously that week. My husband reminded him he needed a license before running it. I also reported that conversation to the city the same day. This is not the first time we have reminded Mr. Rubin he needs to follow code to run any of his businesses. On August 11th, I again spoke with city staff, and Mr. Rubin still has no license to run an Airbnb, yet the property is still currently being listed. I checked today. It is being rented out. There currently is someone there today, and it is rented out for the next week and multiple weekends the next month. So it's still there. So it's now been 3 weeks since my first report. This is Mr. Rubin's 4th attempt on a business with no license, no permit, and no finished application in the last 10 to 11 months. This ongoing illegal operation is really frustrating to me and many of my neighbors, and it kind of raises concerns how code's being enforced in our city. I'd like to know why the city has not shut down the unlicensed rental, what the next steps for the enforcement are, and when can we expect a resolution? I'm just asking for action to uphold our codes and keep our neighborhoods safe and livable. Thank you.
Thank you. The city council will, let's hear all of the inputs and then I'll turn it over to the council to follow up on any of these things for discussion. So is there any other items that residents would like to bring forward at this time?
Chad DeVries, 308 East, 450 North. I have emailed multiple times the city about water pressure issues in my neighborhood. I have been told it is single out to just my house and to hire a plumber. I have done investigation on water meters. I've looked into my water meter, opened up the lid, took a picture, and it's a 5/8 inch size. I've looked at city standard and it calls for a 3/4 inch with a 1 inch water meter or water line. Oftentimes I am trying to run my sprinklers and I have to tell my family to not use the bathroom or run the sink because my sprinklers will go down. I've only lived there for 8 years, been trying to chase this for 7 years and can't get anywhere. I know the pressure reducer valve is after my sprinklers are hooked up on the main line. So I know it's not a pressure reducer valve. I asked about 15 of my nearest neighbors in the neighborhood if they have water issues. I got 10 of them to sign off on a petition. I don't think I'm out of bounds in asking that Public Works come to the neighborhood to look at the water meters and the sizes and address the issues and concerns there. Again, 5/8 inch size. I've never heard of a 5/8 inch size. 3/4 is pretty standard. I think that would help with the flow. It's not more about pressure, but the flow of water, and sick of having my sprinklers go down when someone flushes the toilet inside. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Having none, we'll close that portion of the resident input. And Marcus, can you tell us where we're at on the unlicensed business?
Absolutely. So they have been served with a letter saying that they're operating illegally and they need to stop. We've spoken with the property owner. The short-term rental code gives 30 days for the owner to come into compliance before we start issuing fines. That clock is running. He's about 2 weeks into it. There is an application that had been submitted, but it is incomplete. And we're working with him to see if he can get it completed in time.
So he's 2 weeks into it.
Clock's ticking.
Incomplete application with whatever the remaining 30 days. Is that 30 business days or 30 calendar?
Code says 30 days.
Okay, 30 calendar days.
So that's what we're doing.
And
Does that start from when you sent the letter to him?
So our code enforcement officer with North Park Police hand delivered the letter, taped it to his door. So
So
we
it,
know it. He got the message because he called
so
us
it
the
can't
next day.
start like when he started
no, it
the
can't,
illegal
can't go,
behavior.
can't go retro. It would have to begin once we notify him.
Mhm.
But I would,
But-
Is 30 days a standard? Is that Utah code or city code? I mean, is that kind of standard practice that somebody?
So a regular code enforcement ordinance, we give people 10 days. For whatever reason, the short-term rental ordinance is 30.
That seems
Okay.
like so lenient.
Yeah, but that's what the code is, and that's what we're following.
so we could expect that if non-compliance with a package being submitted, cease and desist or issue citation and fines.
Yeah, if he's not compliant after 30 days, we'll just issue fines.
Okay.
Is there a standard amount for those fines?
Yep, it's
I
an
mean,
ordinance.
sound great. If I could rent my place for, $200 a night and I'm only getting fined $20 a day, then, I've still got a great business going. So, I mean,
I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it is
Okay.
in the ordinance, and I've reviewed it with the code enforcement officer.
yeah, perfect. Okay. Thanks, Marcus.
Well, I know it doesn't have bearing on this, but this has been a frequent flyer on businesses trying to be approached into that.
Right. I understand that frustration, but the problem is in Utah law,
We
every
don't get considered.
every instance has to be considered separately
I
from
know.
other
I
instances.
get that. It-
So even though he's maybe done things incorrectly in the past, we can't use that against him.
Well,
Yeah,
I
now
don't
this is a
believe there was
separate
maybe.
land
unless
use issue.
He has.
I just want it noted too that I spoke with him one evening and I asked him if he was aware of the codes and he said, yes, Stephanie, I'm very aware of the codes. And I said, and you're breaking the code. And he replied that he's a very honest person.
Well, then honestly, we implement the code and take the actions necessary whenever we hold ourselves to, we should hold ourselves to that same standard and everyone else, so. All right, I know on Mr. DeVries' instance, there's a fire hydrant close to his location. And Public Works went out and measured the pressure there. I don't recall if he measured at any other fire hydrants. Do you recall, Marcus? I know he measured at that location.
It was just that one. That one is a little further down the line on the same line that the service for Mr. DeVries' house is.
And we had discussion with Public Works about really the flow is determined by this diameter of the line that goes into the house. We could put a 2-inch meter there, but it's considered the diameter of the line. If it's a 5/8 inch line that goes from the meter to the house, the size of the meter isn't going to affect the flow. It's restricted by the diameter of the pipe. But I'll speak with Public Works tomorrow again. And I know we don't go on to people's houses into their property to measure, but he has a method of measuring the water pressure at the fire hydrants there at your location. And if you would like, we can contact you to come out and see what we're seeing as well on that pressure that we're reading at the main water line that goes off into your house. So I think that would be a good thing to show you what we're seeing as far as water pressure. And I don't know what the state code or anything like that has been, but even if we put a stub to your house at 2-inch, what line do you have from going from the meter to your house? That's going to be, that's where the restriction is. You could hook right up to our main line. But if you have a 5/8 inch line going to your house, it's not going to get any more flow than what is there. So
5/8 heater, 5/8 out, and then my pipe goes out to 1 inch. I'm not gonna gain anything because it was already restricted at the.
right, that's absolutely correct.
I have one question, Mayor. So these other neighbors that signed, they're having the same issue? Is that what you're saying?
That is from our street without telling the kids not to wash their hands.
Are you in the,
Mayor, if we're going to have conversation about this item, which we probably shouldn't because that's not our policy, but if we're going to do that, would you invite them up to the microphone so we
well,
can capture this?
I'm
for the
just
record?
having conversation here with council. I think
Brian, can I add something?
sure.
I reached out to a neighbor that lives south of Mr. DeVries at about 350 East and 220 North, and they have the same difficulties with water pressure, that it's very poor in the house. They do have the irrigation water, so they don't have it outside, but they do inside their house.
Oh, yeah, they should be running sprinkler irrigation water. They're below the canal. Let's Marcus, let's circle back again with Brett and take a broader look at water pressure in that zone, in that area, so that we can really understand things, and we need to know. I think there's some variables that Mr. DeVries has brought up that we should investigate. And if his house is plumped for 1 inch, and how many came off of there at 5/8, things like that, that's a restricting factor. So I think we should investigate it some more and get Brett to get us some more input on that.
Oh. I live a block north and I have no problems at all. So it's quirky.
I think, is this the D. Elton Brown? Or it's just 450 south, from 450 south in that area?
15
450 north, excuse me, south of 450 north.
Yes. 415.
I think he's somewhere on the corner, I believe, close to that, by the school entrance. Yeah. We'll get some more information. I know you've sent some emails, and we'll contact you and let you see what we're seeing so that we can try and at least narrow down where restrictions may be. Okay.
Are we going to look at other people that may have the same problem and see if it's on that same line, or?
I think we should certainly take into account what he has. We do not go on to, we don't measure pressure beyond our meter, the city water meter. So, but I think we should take into account if there's, 10 people that are having an issue in that area versus one person. So I think we need to take that into account. And I'm sure Mr. DeVries will certainly give us addresses or the names of people, and we can figure that out. So we'll move that forward with Public Works tomorrow. And let's see what else. And you've got the clock ticking on the other on the other issue for the.
Yep, it's being
business.
tracked.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, we may not have answers here, but we're going to at least not just nod our head and say, thanks for your input. Let's move. Let's take some more investigation, try and resolve some issues. The next item of business on our council is to review some of the business from the police department. Chief.
Exactly. I appreciate being able to come. Last time we talked about the format of the numbers and that I was presenting, and City Council was interested in more of the priority type calls that we were receiving, and also kind of a history of whether or not we were increasing. And so what you have in front of you today is a representation of that. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to do it. But as you look at it, I took 10 of the biggest priority calls. The accidents, those include the property damage, personal injury, hit and run, the sex offense cases that includes extortions, rapes, sexual assaults, the burglaries, thefts, domestic disputes, and the only other one was the assault, really, the simple assault, a simple fight between kids or not, and then the more aggravated assaults that have occurred. And then I went through and did a snapshot of 2024 and 2025. So as you look at that, the orange is the 2024 calls of just Hyde Park calls, and the blue is the 2025. Total for 2024, Hyde Park had 300 priority calls in these categories right here. And so as you look at where we're at 8 months into the year on that, some of them were below, others were on track to beat, to see an increase in that, in those areas. Some of those, like I said, for example, our domestic disputes, we're almost surpassing that, or we're going to surpass that by the end of the year. We're at 19 currently. We had 22 last year for Hyde Park on that. So that's an area, like I said, that takes a lot of time. It's dangerous for everybody involved in
You're
it.
tracking this on your calendar year, not fiscal year, right?
Correct. That's how we get it's calendar year, January to January on that, or end of December. Like I said, a lot of these areas, I'm anticipating that will surpass and see an increase in those, but I'll try to keep these up to date for you. For this week's call, so this last week, August 3rd through August 9, Hyde Park had 39 calls for service. 6 of those fell into these priority categories. We had 1 alcohol offense. We had 4 accidents, PD or personal injury crashes or hit and run, and then 1 medical emergency. The others that you see, Marcus, if you'll scroll down, I did just a snapshot so you could still see kind of what the other non-priority calls that we were dealing with. I do want to emphasize that there is still a time requirement that the officers spend in investigating these and helping the citizens here. It's still considered obligated time. It's just not a priority. So if we, for instance, were handling a citizen assist or event inspection or animal problem, and we had a fire that came out, our guys would drop that and head to the fire or head to an accident injury crash rather than handle an abandoned vehicle. So there's still a time requirement there, an obligated time, but they're not the priority where life is involved or we need to get there as quickly with that. So again, I'm not sure if this is the format that you want to see moving forward. This was a good starting point to kind of start. This is where we're at. And it'll be interesting to see by the end of the year where we fall on those. Other updates, school starting next Wednesday. Yesterday, we took the time to meet with our crossing guards. We have a new crossing guard for Cedar Ridge, Todd Hansen, who will be down there. We'll also have our animal control officer that's helping him in the afternoon for that, on that. So we went through the training with them. We're excited to see them up and going. So we also have put up some shifts for the guys to work that first week of school, so that hopefully we have an officer in all the crosswalks there or next to the crosswalks. Hopefully that'll help in what problems we had last year with people going through and speeding and everything like that. So it's the same concerns again that we're trying to address as we start this year on that. Other concerns. So the e-motorcycles has been a big deal. It's still a big deal through the state. Today, we had our chiefs meeting through the valley. We had all the valley chiefs come, and I presented some ideas and things that that have come out of the legislative working group on that. One of the suggestions that was brought up was, number one, there's no age limit requirement on the e-motorcycles. So this is not the e-bikes, this is the e-motorcycles. On that, they do have a motorcycle endorsement requirement that if you're going to be riding on the street, you're supposed to have that. And to have that, you're supposed to be 16. So in the roundabout way there is, but there's no direct, you will not ride it if that. So that was talked about. There is also the idea of citing the parents of the kids who are riding these for allowing their child to operate a vehicle without a proper license on that. There's talk about that.
At a state level?
That has been one of the suggestions that has come up.
Wow.
Like I said, none of these are law yet. These are just ideas that are floating on how do we craft amendments to the law that exists to try to make it better, to try to address some of the problems. There's also talk or suggestions if a citation were issued to the child or to the juvenile for riding the bike, the e-motorcycle, that citation would trigger an automatic or required safety course that they have to go through. So there's talk about that. We've had 2 crashes in the last month involving either a scooter or an e-dirt bike. One of them was down a Wolfpack Way where a kid was going at 35 to 40 miles an hour on a walking path northbound, and a car came out from a business there to turn right and was looking right, happened to glance left and saw the kid coming up extremely fast. And so they gunned it, trying to get out of his way. And he ended up hitting the back of the car. There's some injuries on that. And then we had one down here on 12th East and 3100 North involving a scooter and a truck that was driving westbound that didn't see, pulled out, didn't end up not yielded, or he didn't yield to it, and the girl hit him on that. So like I said, it's a matter of time until we start seeing some serious injuries with these. So we're trying to do what we can with it.
So I know you and I and Mayor Peterson, we've been talking about this for a bit, and we brought it up in police commission, but how open is the rest of the chiefs that can we get and specifically, how open could we get to get a uniform code from sheriffs, Logan, us, and Smithfield?
Well, that is the goal actually with the whole state, as I talk with other chiefs and other agencies outside our valley, they would like the same thing. We're all seeing the same problems. As I talked with the different chiefs, I'm like, how are you addressing it? What are you telling your guys on how to address it? And right now there's varying things. I'm like, well, this is what we're trying to do. We need to come together. So I'm waiting for some feedback to come back from them as they go back with their guys. But the idea on our end is our patience with it is pretty limited on there with the number of problems that we've seen. It's going to start up as school starts up again. The kids are going to be riding back and forth.
Oh yeah, just hang out down at Green Canyon High School and find out every one of them that's driving up.
Yep.
Chief, do we have to wait for the state to come up with a code? So we could do one for North Park or the Valley or whoever wants to work together.
Well, the chief has reached out to St. George and has
Right.
received other codes, and
Yeah.
we're trying to mill that around, but we want to make sure we can make it uniform.
So part of the problem is that every city has their own city ordinance on it. For example, Providence and Nibley, Millville, I think all have a different policy ordinance regarding motorized vehicles and use on sidewalks and not what can be used. So that's part of the, I guess, mayors, as you address it with your meetings with the other mayors and say, this is what we'd like to do. I suggested today that we set up a meeting with the chiefs and the actual prosecutors who are going to be prosecuting them if we start issuing citations out to that. So there's no sense in issuing citations if they're not going to be prosecuted on that. It's frustrating for us. It's frustrating for everybody involved on that. So the goal though would be to get all the cities on the same page with either an ordinance, because that is part of the state law that the cities can enact an ordinance that regulates that or controls that.
I think a wise way to do that is once an ordinance is kind of passing the test with the chiefs, that we get the chiefs in front of the Mayor's Association and see if we can take it that direction, and that gets it into all the communities as well.
Exactly. And there was willingness to do that as I talked with them. Everybody's,
Yeah.
Well, and there's so many electric things. There's the scooters, there's the little, I don't know, do you call them hover things that just have one wheel, and there's even little tiny mini motorcycles that zip around my neighborhood, and all of them seem like they're in danger. There's one repeat offender that's on an electric scooter that blasts through the stop signs, and a friend of mine has watched cars slam on their brakes for him a couple times now.
yeah.
It's all over.
They going to be linked into these electric motorcycles, or?
There's 3 classifications.
So there's actually more. There's a 3 e-bicycles.
Yeah.
E-bicycles have the pedals. They have a throttle assist, but they don't go more than 28 miles an hour. And then you have another category that's the e-motorcycles. They have a higher wattage, 750 watts and higher. They have pegs, not pedals. They are a dirt bike that has an electric motor. They go upwards of 50, 60 miles an hour, depending on the rider on that. I think as we talked today, one of the biggest things that came out is there needs to be a real push for education with that. Part of that, I think, would involve the Bear River Health Department. They do a lot of the training and education proponents to that, as well as the other things, newsletters or in town meetings or things like, there needs to be an education part to it as well. So
Yeah,
Is there an education thing that maybe you could do at the schools? Offer something or have somebody in uniform stand there, when all the kids come out and and get on them and say, hey, here's some information that we would like you to at least be aware of and read, some way to maybe
Yep. So
educate.
it's a great idea. That's ideally where it needs to be presented to. But part of the problem that the school district has, as we've talked with them, is that they struggle to get any number of people there. I mean, for back to school night, things like that, they'll have a dozen people who show up for it.
Yeah.
And really, the education needs to be with the parents as well. The parents are being asked by the kids to buy the bikes, and it's a convenient way for them to send their kid, hey, he can ride to practice now. And so the parents are not being educated really on, hey, this is a problem. They're interacting as a vehicle. They have no understanding of vehicle laws or dynamics or braking or any of the rules of the road. And so it's a two-part. The challenge is how do we educate the parents and the kids?
We first have to get a good clarification on our code of what we're going to educate them about.
Right.
We can do certain things in our codes where bikes on trails or sidewalks where they should be in traveling on the sides of the roads or something like that. But really, we just need to have a good, robust code on this and be able to trickle that information down. As much as we'd like to have it sooner than later, we need to have it right.
Right.
I know as a city, I just start grading on how far they can actually ride on one wheel past my house. And there's actually quite a bit of damage happening at Lions Park because of these dirt bikes that are going up and down the hillsides, ruining the grass that we have for residents to enjoy the park. So, but we got to get it right. And then we need to have a good strategy for educating people and then enforce it.
Exactly. I would not be surprised if there was a training portion that comes out in this next year with it. The state already has a training program for their off-highway vehicle things. If they're up in the road or up in the hills and they get stopped and issued a citation there, that triggers that training for them. So there's already something like that in place. And technically what they're doing is the same thing. It would be considered an off-highway vehicle if it's not registered. And 99% of the ones that we're seeing are not registered. They don't have the plates, they don't have the insurance, they don't have the turn signals, the mirrors, all those type of things, that the horn that would make it street legal. And so it would fall under that off-highway vehicle.
So, Chief, did you guys talked about lights? Like just last night, walking home from Green Canyon, 2 kids on one of those, no lights whatsoever in the dark.
We didn't talk about the lights. That's another problem with it. They're silent. You can hardly hear them until they're 5 feet behind you.
Yeah.
You know?
Or right into the side of your car.
Yep, or in the side of your car. And if they're turning the lights off too, yeah, that's a problem as well. So,
Okay. Well, I know as a police commission, we've had some discussion, but let's encourage you that at some point get the chiefs to move off center. It's good discussion, but let's put some ink on some paper.
Yep. One other question though regarding this, because it's bubbled up in my neighborhood this last 2 or 3 weeks. Trails. Can we do anything as a city or as a law enforcement? Because we've got people in those bikes and that are riding too fast, dangerous. People are walking on the roads, on those trails.
The e-motorcycles are definitely not allowed on the trails. Bikes and that are, but those motorcycles are definitely not allowed, and they can be cited for that.
yep, absolutely.
Good.
Just
They put up, the neighbors put up some signs that PG tore up because we don't want to close but it gets to the point where it's dangerous, then we don't know what to do.
Yep. And again, it comes down to the powers that be on it. And in these situations, the power that be are the parents. The parents are the ones that are providing the e-motorcycles for the kids. And a lot of it is They don't have an understanding of what they're doing or why it's dangerous or what's legal, what's not, what's an e-bike, what's an e-motorcycle. Like there's just a lot of education I think that needs to happen with it as well.
I like the example the chief gave us. I think he told Mayor Peters and myself that he had somebody that was passing him that went past him that was quite fast and way too fast, and followed him home, and the parents said, well, I don't know that it was my kids. Well, I do. I followed him here. So
I do actually. Why are they in your home?
yeah, so it's education, and I honestly believe that some of the parents may not realize what their kids are doing on some of those. And there's runs a great risk to themselves and to other people.
Absolutely. So we are addressing it as quickly as we can, and but there will be a component where we need to meet and with the mayors and all come together on it. So
Are you going to address the 400 East?
the what, I'm sorry?
400 East?
Oh, the last thing, the speed trailer. So we've had the speed trailer up there because of complaints that have come in on that. I've actually broken up into 2 studies. So there's one that's currently going right now. And then when we met this last week for the traffic safety, I had pulled the data from that. And on that data, our highest speed was 53 that we got on there. And in that time frame, there was like 958 cars that went either north or south through there on that.
Okay.
I haven't finished the report yet, but those are some of the highlights on it.
So and the safety committee, we brought the chief in. I think it's very important that we have him in there. And we also met today, chief, with the school district to discuss the safe routes to school and some of the issues that's going to bring up the new elementary school. So we're going to need to bring you into that because I think you're in that community. What's it called? The community councils.
Right.
The police are part of that, but they don't have one because the school doesn't exist yet. But we're still going to move forward. So
With that, and that's another concern with the e-motorcycles and e-bikes too, is more of the elementaries are encouraging walking to school on that. And you'll see the parents say, that's not convenient. So anyway, I think that problem's just going to increase. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's what I have for you.
well, let's keep moving forward on it and try and get that one nailed down right.
Okay.
The things that I would like, well, we spoke about the safety committee. And I'll turn a little bit of that over to Dave, but for myself, I want to find out from the council, we potentially have some opportunity for the city investing in some property in the northwest portion of town for a potential park. And I've spoke to a future park. I spoke to the property owner and spoke a little bit with Tiffany to understand the cost variables. So just wanted to find out from the council if that is something you would like us to continue to negotiate and bring back to the council, or, we've spoke about having more parks. We need that in the city, and that's an area that's that's lacking in park access for people and easily accessed for walkability. If you want us to continue to pursue that. And it's not necessarily a motion, but if you don't want, if you think that that's not something the city should be doing, please let me know. And if it is, I'm wanting to, Tiffany understands a great deal of the values on properties and wanting to bring her into that to discuss the potential of the city purchasing some property.
I would support making a little step towards that, not committing to it, but finding out more information for
More
sure.
information, bring it back to you, see what we have. Okay.
I'm a 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. Good
Saying it's only gonna get more expensive and there's no parks out there and we're gonna be growing out that direction and get it for the city before developers get it and come in here and want to put a bunch of townhouses on it.
So for those that live in that north part of town, please don't say that, yeah, it's coming. We're just trying. The other item is we've submitted the Wolfpack Way grant for build. We already have a grant for the engineering from Hyde Park to Smithfield, but now it's a large project. It would be broken down into 3 phases. 2 phases would be in Hyde Park. So we submitted for 2, but realistically, if we can get the 1, we're going to be thrilled with that. So we're going to keep moving that forward. And even if we do get that grant, those funds couldn't be expended till 27. So we still have a lot of heavy lifting to do behind the scenes, but we're moving that forward. So with that, as I go through and see if there's anything on the city council, we had the city celebration and we had different assignments, voluntold assignments that assignments for us to do during the city celebration, like to get a little report out on how things went, what your thoughts are, and continue to try and make our hometown days as good as we can make them. But Dave, we'll turn it to you first.
Okay. On that specifically, there's great article in the newsletter. Lots of thanks go out to people. I'm not sure that there was enough thanks to our fellow city council member here. If there was anything I would change, I would say we need to help Stephanie more, not wait till the week prior when she asks us to do some things and, a little here and a little there. I think we ought to all be more engaged in assisting her. However, maybe one of us works with whoever's doing the parade or the car show or something, but maybe each person up here is a liaison for a specific event or one of those big kind of moving things so that Stephanie isn't trying to carry the water for everything. So thank you, Stephanie. I just want to make sure that was on public record because I don't think you've gotten enough thanks for that. It was great.
Dawn wrote something.
I spent quite a bit of time there. I saw her husband Joel there early in the morning and some others on the city council Friday night and Saturday morning and Saturday night late. And so thanks to all those who made that a great event.
Yes. And of course, Dave, like last year, being my saving angel, he was again. I just appreciate you so much stepping in and seeing things that need to be done and doing them. I talked to the royalty about the watermelon and they felt like they were in a hurry to do that. So
Yeah, I missed that one. I was still handing out creamies when they were moving the watermelon.
I said you weren't in a hurry, but they didn't realize. And then Brian, it looks like you helped me with all your stuff. I wanted to ask you, Gerald, so I wanted to get some eyes on that bike race and find out how that was and how it was set
Yeah,
up.
so one of my assignments was to check in on the bike race, and there was not a big turnout for that.
Yeah,
And so they had fun, those that were there, and those that were running it, just made sure that everyone had fun and stuff like that. Of course, the fun run was great. A lot of people turned out to that.
thank you. Joel specifically asked for you and Julie, so.
Anyway, and then, I did the 9 square setup and takedown. Kids really helped
Yeah.
get that set up, and they were playing it right to the bitter end.
I know, I hate taking it away from them, but
Yeah, so it was good.
Yeah, as you say, you asked me to help Gerald with that and we got there and the city council, thank goodness, was there. They showed up and we kind of stood back and they put it together. So thanks for having them be there because we couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just want to report that we only had 2 horses in the parade.
yeah.
So I will try to reach out to some different horse riding groups to see if we can promote.
Yeah.
We have all those circles over our road, and nobody won.
Yeah.
I invited so many horses. I thought the Wellsville Rodeo Queens were gonna come and also the Cache County Rodeo Queens, and
Yeah.
they both committed to come and didn't.
I haven't painted my trailer up for that.
You knocked the rust off the hitch for that.
Yeah,
one.
yeah. But anyway,
Our Public Works though could not find that wagon, the trailer for the Hoover Scooper.
oh, that's my wagon, so
Oh,
they just come and get it.
yeah, they were looking for it and Jeff, anyway.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're.
They.
Gary always just called, can I use that? And I go, that's the wagon I said I cleaned up and painted.
okay.
Yeah.
But,
Gotcha.
I still have the sign too in my garage. I was gonna come hang it over my name tag here. So I do have that. I'll
So-
get it up here.
Thank you for having the horse in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please
I will
send
try
us-
to promote that a little bit so we have a few more.
That'd be great. Okay.
Okay.
Some of our people that ride through the streets of Hyde Park will not do the parade because horses get.
Mm.
Yeah, not
nervous
every horse is
profusely.
good for a parade.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, and then Kirk, I wanted to find out, on the booths, did you check through them?
You know, I gotta confess, I went to the thing that was in here for the old timers, or what do they call it?
Mm-hmm.
I ended up staying there the whole hour. It was wonderful, but there weren't very many people there. I think that the history of Hyde Park, I learned things that I didn't know or whatever about some of those old timers. We had people in their nineties there. And so I spent most of my time there, and
Well, so the booths still went from 11 until about 2, so that was before.
yeah, that's about, it went over about 2:00. Yeah.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed it, and I would hope that we could do something, maybe generate more people to come to that, because I don't think it's just for old people. I think the history that you can learn about your city and your community, there's a wealth of knowledge out there, and it was fun to listen to those people that they had some pictures and showed that, and so,
Do you know about how many showed up?
yeah, so I really like that, and I hope that we could
Do you have
promote
a,
that a little better.
do you have a number? Was there 15, 20 people that showed up?
There was probably 15. We had a circle right here. About as many as to this, as a city council meeting.
They're not called old timers. They're called people our age.
And
But it was fun.
were you able to get water to our train engineers?
I didn't,
No, no on that either.
because they weren't running when I was here.
They ran from the parade clear until the afternoon and then again in the evening.
When I came, I didn't see them.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
it does sound like that maybe you have a
There's-
lead for the old, or the senior story hour for next year, huh, Kirk? You got that?
Hey now.
I,
Well, I think we see some gaps that we probably can improve on and try and definitely some things to make the celebration better. We had some input when Stephanie asked it on social media as well. And I think they had some great ideas to help us out. So I too would like to echo what Dave said, and Stephanie does an amazing job, but she needs help. And
Be
Not
a little
only from
selfish
us.
with it.
not only from us, but I think it's getting to the point where we should be getting more resident involvement, and it's their city celebration. It's not the city council city celebration. So
Good point.
we need to get people involved if we can get them engaged somehow. And we've found that that's been a struggle on many levels.
and the age-old problem of just communicating to our citizens and having them receive that information. We've got to get people to not live under rocks, I guess.
Just be involved. Absolutely.
You never hear.
Okay, the next item on the agenda for our action items is to consider amending the plat for the Meadows at Hyde Park Phase 2. Marcus or Mikkel? Mikkel? When I say Marcus, I mean Mikkel.
Okay, so hopefully everyone was able to view their packet on this one. I did include a staff report, so I wouldn't have to explain the entire situation. If anybody needs clarification on that, I can go through that staff report again. But what we want to do is amend this plat to the correct title, which is PUD. That's how it was approved. It was approved by city council when it was approved, and that's why it's back before you today. It needed a correction, and at the request of the developer, we're here to make that correction. So your motion would be to approve the amended Hyde Park Meadows PUD Phase 2 final plat, if you so choose.
So council, do you have questions as pertaining to this? The amendments, what's changing, things like that?
I didn't understand how it got changed to something else and now we're changing it back? Or is it just the change of the?
No, when it was
developer?
originally developed, it was approved under the PUD ordinance
Right, I
that no
remember.
longer exists.
Oh,
And then it was recorded. The plat was incorrect. The plat did not include the phrase PUD. And it also had setbacks listed on there that didn't match. And so we were able to catch that mistake at building permit time. It needs to be taken care of quickly so that these building permits can get approved and these builders can get on with business. We've already done the back and forth internally with the developer and planning and even the ombudsman. And this is the solution that we came up with, is he had the amended plat drawn up and we have it before you to approve so that it can be
The
recorded.
big thing is to keep that paper trail of how it's approved.
It's
So that,
important. to
so
do
that it's recorded the right way, so that people are wondering why you have these kind of setbacks. Well, it's because of a code tied way back when or a zoning that no longer exists, but we can connect the dots on that one.
And that's why we wanted to include the PUD on the final plat as it should have been, so that everybody would know it was approved as a PUD.
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion on this if
Okay.
you'd like. Yeah, I'd make a motion that we approve this change and as presented here, based on my conversation with staff and their staff report that they've put in the file, so.
Got a motion from Garrell to approve the amended plat for the Meadows at Hyde Park Phase 2.
Second.
We got a second from Kurt. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. Good to see you again.
Thank you. We appreciate your timely
Just-
action on that.
I
And,
recognized you this time when you came in.
and I would just say, I'm grateful for the staff effort that's worked on this and made it,
Yeah.
taking the time to explain beforehand so we can come here and not spend a half an hour trying to figure out what's going on. So thank you for your work.
Highly recommend that you take that time, and I know many of you came in and spoke with Michaela and Marcus on this, and that makes tonight quick. Thank you. The next item is to consider ordinance 2025-17, ordinance amending the Hyde Park Municipal Code to authorize and regulate medical cannabis pharmacies within the city. The first thing that we would do, you want to explain it before we had public hearing on this?
So there's no public hearing
There's no
scheduled.
public hearing required?
I can do a brief recap for anybody who didn't have a chance to read through it. This, first of all, big disclaimer, we don't have any applications pending. There's no dispensaries trying to come to Hyde Park. We're trying to get ahead of it. We're trying to be preventative. We're trying to make sure that we have a good sandbox for these people to play in if they ever show up to be a part of the city. The restrictions that are listed in here are what is allowed by state code. There's a lot of things that the planning commission wanted to see in here that didn't make the final cut when we reviewed it with the city attorney because they were restrictions that are no longer allowed by state code.
The one restriction that is not allowed by state code is saying no.
That's the big one. Yeah,
That's
we
the
can't
big
just say
one.
no.
So you have to have a code in place in case, otherwise you get what you deserve. So this is.
Right. So the version presented for the city council tonight has been approved by the city attorney, that we had a public hearing on it. And it's ready to be approved if the council so desires.
Do you have any questions on this?
I
code?
don't, but I just, for those who are here this evening, just that may not be aware of that code. For me, I mean, it's helpful highlighted that it's, the pharmacy cannot be within 200 feet of community locations like schools, daycare, childcare, churches, libraries, or 600 feet from any area that's zoned primary residential. So I think if we were to put that on a map, we'd probably say there's maybe not any space this side of the highway that, yeah, I mean, there are very few or little at this point in time for all intents and purposes.
It depends on how council approves
Future zoning, right?
future zoning along Wolfpack Way and the highway.
Yeah.
That's what it really depends on.
Right.
And I'll just leave it at that. So
Yeah. Okay, so, no, I think,
be smart. So
again, based on the staff and input from the lawyer and the code.
I think planning
I-
commission has spent a lot of time
Yeah.
working on this as well as staff and I thought they've done a great job.
Well, any other discussion? I'll go ahead and make a motion.
That would be a motion to approve.
Yeah, I
Okay.
move.
You kind of trailed off there.
Well, I was mostly and want to make sure we were done with discussion before I jumped in and I move that we approve ordinance 2025-17, amending the Hyde Park Municipal Code to authorize, regulate medical cannabis pharmacies within the city.
We got a
And I'll
motion.
second it.
Okay, we got a motion from Dave and the second from Stephanie, and I'm going to ask at some point during this meeting that we cross the streams and we not have the left and the right. And
You noticed that too, right?
yeah, that we go ahead and sing Kumbaya and do it together. We got a motion to approve ordinance 2025-17. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed with nay. Motion carries 4-0. The next item is to consider ordinance 2025-18, an ordinance defining temporary gravel pits within Hyde Park City. This is another preemptive opportunity for the city to get ahead of this before we don't get ahead of it.
Correct.
Is this another situation where the state imposes it on us?
Yeah, so this is a very similar situation to the medical cannabis. We can't necessarily ban these things from happening in the city, but if we draw good parameters around it, then we can control how they happen. A big difference to note for this ordinance is a regular, what we consider gravel pit, like what's north of Smithfield or down in Hiram right now. Those big operations are now under a different classification after this last legislative session. They have their own special almost zoning and protections. And the state heavily regulates them to the point where our planning commission chair reached out to the state ombudsman to get some advice for the city to write a code to regulate those types of gravel pit. And the state ombudsman's answer was basically, don't bother. We've got it covered at the state level. There's so many rules in place now. But they did recommend that we enact an ordinance to regulate the temporary gravel pits. Now, the big difference is this is something like what's happening up on the Lone Cedar development, where a developer can harvest gravel materials as they're doing their excavation for their subdivision and for their roads and everything else. But the restrictions this ordinance puts on them is they cannot take it and move it off-site or sell it to a different party. If they harvest those materials, it can only be used for the building and development of that subdivision or for sale as landscaping materials back to the home buyers or something along those lines. And again, this has been reviewed by the city attorney and it is ready to be approved if the council is ready to do that.
Well, I'll make a motion that we pass ordinance 2025-18.
Got a
I'll-
motion from Stephanie to approve 2025-18. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There we go. Thank you, Gary.
And I wasn't gonna open my mouth, so one of the two did.
I love our council. Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Any opposed with nay? Motion carries 4-0. The next one is to consider a franchise agreement with Lumen Technologies, who used to be several different names.
Right, they were Quest and then they were CenturyLink and other Lumen. So franchise agreements, just as a refresher for the city council, these are agreements that the city only enters into with entities that would like to use our public right of ways to put their utilities in. We already have existing franchise agreements with companies such as Comcast or Xfinity, Google Fiber. We have, it's not called a franchise agreement, but it's a similar arrangement. Companies like that. CenturyLink has been operating the city right of way for some time now. We have history of them getting permits to build most of the infrastructure. There were situations we identified where we could not figure out if they had ever submitted permits or not. We approached CenturyLink or Lumen to try and fix the issue and figure out how we could make it better. And the solution that their attorney and our attorney settled on was to enter into a franchise agreement. The language in this agreement is very similar to standard agreements you see across the state. It is maximizing the limit that we can charge them for using the public right of way. And so how it works is this agreement gives them permission to put their utilities in the public right of way in the public utility easement. So that little 5 foot of land in front of your house that's in your yard, but it's kind of your yard, not really your yard. Everybody has one. Where they put the cable boxes, electric boxes, that's the public utility easement. So this gives them permission to operate in there. They still have to come to the city to get permits. They still have to tell us when they're digging up our roads. But in exchange for us giving this blanket permission for them to operate, they have to pay us a cut of those profits, almost as you could think of it as like rent. They pay us a rent payment for being able to use the city's public utility easement.
So we've been going through this for a while because the original proposal to them was pay us the 10 years of back franchise agreement funds. And there was something about legality on that one. And then I said, well, that's fine then. Get your utilities out of our easement then. And we couldn't do that either. So here we sit.
Is there any chance of them getting together with Google and doing it at the same time?
No, CenturyLink actually is pretty much already in the city, like citywide, already there. So
Yeah.
this is just, the problem that we have is most of the franchise agreements have language in them that make it so we can't grant an unfair advantage to any competing business. And so that was really the push that we had for CenturyLink is we said, you don't have a franchise agreement. Technically, you're getting an unfair advantage. And so either we can settle this with attorneys, in the legal system, or we can put you in the same playing field as everyone else and we can have a franchise agreement. So that's really the main reason why this happened.
Gotcha.
They're kept, and we had it changed in there because sometimes when we were putting 700 East in, we found that they wanted us to pay an exorbitant amount of money for them to move their utilities. And in the franchise agreement, it has it if our public right of ways are being impeded by their utilities when we go to develop our roads, that they have to do them at our request, not for $40,000 like they want. So
One more thing to note in this agreement, you will notice on the final page, that Lumen's attorneys have already approved the agreement. It has been signed by their people. So this
So-
is just getting approval
There's
from
quite a
city
bit of
council.
wrestling back and forth on this one,
Yeah, our city attorney has approved this version.
so. Any more questions? If not, I look for a motion for us to,
Make the motion to,
we got a motion from Kirk to enter into the Lumen Technology franchise agreement. Okay, is there a second?
Stephanie.
I'll second it.
Got a second from Stephanie. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed with nay? Motion carried 4-0. Last item is to review and consider the ground rules for the safety committee. Dave, you want to?
You want me to?
Well, I can
Yeah.
get it in a quick in order for the safety committee to truly function, we drew up kind of some, not necessarily bylaws, but, Hyde Park Safety Committee document. It's 5 pages long, but the first 4.5 pages are, just kind of how we get along with each other. The real thing is defining what the authority that safety committee has. So the requests, if they're wanting and recommending that we replace stop signs, paint lines that we currently have, doing those kind of things to aid us in our traffic calming, just make it safer, they can go ahead and request that this is the recommendation from the committee. Some of those signs we go ahead, we've already bought, we're replacing them. If it is going to require anything new, adding new stop signs in intersections, changing speed limits, things like that, that comes back to this council to make that approval. That committee cannot expend funds, but the city budgets for an amount for signage during the year, so that we want to be able to, we don't want them to blow it all at once and then we find out we need something else. We need to be able to understand the whole scope of it, but we want to be able to move that forward. And so that basically lays down the authority, how many people it can have a range, how often they meet really comes down to as needed or quarterly. We also said what terms and who's going to chair it. And I recommended that one of the city council members chair it, and how it's made up. It's similar to the planning commission, getting people to be a part of that. And I think they've done an amazing job on things that they've identified and to help us out. But I didn't want them to go ahead and make changes. And we'll talk about one of those shortly, of things to the traffic flow without it coming back to the council. So.
but my feeling is they recommend, and then we have to approve the recommendation.
But if it's, hey, the safety committee recognized that we've got this old stop sign down here at First West and Second North, that it's a stop sign because of the.
But doesn't our staff just take care of some of those other things? That are common
We
sense?
do when we get phone calls typically, because the staff doesn't go out and drive the city streets every time, but
And keep in mind that the city council did approve a budget that
Yeah.
included funds for the safety committee to operate under
yeah.
these restrictions, so.
So,
This is just getting more eyes out there to help us out on
Right.
that.
so part of what we did there, Kirk, is that each of us kind of had the different part of town. We went out, we walked, as we're driving, we're taking notes, we came back, consolidated a list of, here's, I don't know how many signs we ended up with, but here's 20 stop signs and yield signs that are damaged, can't read, whatever the case may be. And then sat down with Danya to look at the budget to see, and frankly, we came up with probably more replacements that we would have liked this year than what
did.
we'd budgeted for. To include some flashing light things that we'd recommended. So anyway, we prioritize those, and it just saves, the city staff from spending however many hours doing something that the safety committee could do. So essentially, we were just helping the city execute what had been budgeted for the sign replacement, and the ones we didn't have enough money for this year, we'll get next year. So, yeah.
My point is,
But-
change. If there's something that
That's-
has to change, speed limit or.
Those come back.
Yeah,
That's all, and they have a budget, let them use it.
right. That's exactly what the mayor's basically
That's-
saying is,
Well,
but we've got to tell the safety committee, don't go out and start spending money and thinking we're gonna put up signs without approval of the city council and input from the staff and the police department and all that.
We're finding out that the traffic, as the chief told us, 53 miles an hour on Fourth East, 700 East, we had a top speed of
73, I think.
73. What we're trying to do is figure out ways in conjunction with the school district, because we're considering bus stops in there and the police department and their traffic data that they tell us. How do we slow traffic up in residential areas? And that's the big thing that the committee's trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
But if it's going to change a speed limit or add a new stop sign, I want this council to recognize, they'll come in and give you the rationale and explain to you what their recommendation is of why they think it should be a four-way stop sign here. And this council make that change, because we're changing the flow of the traffic. And perhaps the safety committee isn't looking at the big picture that you might be thinking of. So
And the other thing I want to just interject is either the safety committee or the city council, before a big decision like that is made, should have a study done
Yeah.
according to engineering standards. There's, manuals put out by the federal government about traffic safety, traffic control devices, traffic counts that warrant certain types of signage. And so if we are going to be doing that, either body should contact the city staff and say, hey, we need to do a study. And then we can work with an engineering firm and do the appropriate analysis to make sure that it's something that actually warrants action. I reached out to the entire state, my counterparts in the state, to see if I could get some policies and procedures from other towns and how they do it. And largely the feedback I got was the city needs a written procedure. There needs to be something in writing. So that's what we're working on now. And with that, when the engineering analysis is performed, there needs to be specific parameters and data that goes along with it. And the other interesting thing that I heard from a lot of these bigger cities, that they said a lot of people complain and think that there needs to be four-way stops added, or, yields turned into stops. They said about 4 out of 5 times nothing needs to change according to these federal standards. And so it's good to have those studies done, because then you have data and analysis showing that when the intersection reaches a certain point of traffic or of, delay for the cars to get through, that's when we should put in the signage. But right now it's okay. So just a plug for us to have a data-centric approach.
So I'm looking, I loaded it into Box last week, but I'm not seeing it in Box.
And I can't see it either. So I don't know if it just made it to the wrong folder or what happened.
Okay. So I wouldn't think that the council is going to approve anything, but inside that same document, it does exactly what Marcus was saying, is we have to commit the studies, and the chief's had the speed trailer up there collecting some information so that we can help make an informed decision.
And there probably needs to be a few more, discussions. How many people, there were some of those,
Yeah.
and some happy to glad formatting kind of things that I think could flush out before it's actually ready for.
So I'll load it up again for the next one. I was addressing some of those, but I had it in here. But anyway, the other parts of it is what's coming out of it is along elementary schools, parks, speed limit's supposed to be 25. we have we have a park that has roads on two sides of it. The speed limit is not 25. And that's going to be one of the recommendations coming out of it on 3100 or our 6 South, where people are racing down to school from up on the bench. It gets to the park and it's still 35 miles an hour.
30.
30, it varies all the way along there, and
Yeah.
the safety committee is believing that we should have some consistency in that. And then on our 250, which is North Logan's 8th East, it skirts that same park. And we have a higher speed limit there. So those are things that they're identifying. The committee's already recommended to the school district for changing of bus stops because of where they are and traffic. So they have been really good to be an active part of that, but we'll have to put this on the agenda again to bring it back.
Can I ask a quick question?
Certainly. Sweet.
Curiosity, Marcus, is there a timeline for the stop signs on 400 East and 450 North?
So they're here, they're ready to be installed. There's a little bit of a hiccup with the spacing of them and the private driveways that are nearby. And I know the safety committee was looking at that to figure out how to best address the placement of those signs and not be in the middle of someone's driveway.
So what
Yeah.
we're talking about is a 4-way stop there.
And Chief came, thank you, Mayor, for inviting the chief to our last safety meeting. Because I've looked at the transportation study 2024 that shows so much of the traffic is coming just north to south and so forth and so on. But one of the good points that Chief made to us in the committee was the study. And so they're going to have a trailer up there. So we have even more current data and speed data, that if we were to put signs up and not do our due diligence and notification and having the right spacing and a stop sign ahead, and this is a change in traffic pattern for decades ago. Somebody comes through and there's an injury or an accident there, they could say, well, gee, I didn't see the sign. It was never there before, so forth and so on. So we have to do our due diligence to make sure that if something were to happen, we couldn't be held liable for improper placement of signs, so forth and so on. So there's still a little groundwork to be done before they go out and talking to neighbors and figuring out spacing, some of that. But
I
that
think
was certainly a major topic of the safety committee, was trying to work through and best way to approach that. But yeah, it's here.
we have,
Signs are here.
although we have it's not to discount the high speed on 700 East, the high speed that we have on 4th East isn't as high, but if you take into consideration the proximity of the sidewalk to the road, when it's up there right next to the curb, it adds a higher risk factor for.
And it's a flat curb too.
Yeah, so,
And
and
it's a narrower road and all the rest of that, it's like 50 on
We-
that road would be like 70 on
It's so
700.
scary, but when the traffic trailer was there, everybody slowed down.
so
So that 52 might not be real accurate.
the big thing is as we try to do things to calm traffic in our community, the better thing is we're trying to push them to the corridors. Get them to go down to the Wolfpack ways and get them onto the roads where they're not running through neighborhoods versus get them on transportation corridors. That's why we need to get that grant and continue that building of the road so it can be safer.
Just had this thought, Wolfpack Way, we've considered a development down there, a possible development, which would have a park. And based on the knowledge that we just learned that federal code says 25 miles an hour next to a park, would that impact Wolfpack Way speed limit, or do we not?
There's ways that, just like the high school that's there, it's 45 miles an hour there. The way that they space it, the way that you have your parking, the way that you
Okay.
do things, you can do it. And some of the discussion we had today with an art committee, there's ways that we can plan it
okay.
smart versus
Just
trying to fix something that was done.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
super, thanks.
Yeah. So with that, does anybody else have any comment? I would say and recommend, Dania's done a lot of, input and analysis, and I recommend that you come into the city offices next week to discuss property tax and, have some discussion, so you can go into our next council meeting informed if you're going to be there, but, to be able to understand what's going on behind that. As you, council, as you know, we have to advertise it as a tax increase, although our tax rate isn't increasing. It's the appraised value of the home that's increased. So the tax rate stays the same. But in truth and transparency, that's the way the state has decided that we must do it, so that we shall do. So please come in and take some time with Marcus or myself or Danya and understand that those numbers that are in there. Currently, our property tax doesn't quite cover police and fire, our expenses for police and fire protection. So if you take that into consideration, that's just the starting level where we're at. That means our booming business sector, we get 2.5 times still more out of sales tax than what we do out of property tax. So we need more booming business, but please come in and take that time.
Mayor, can I ask one question of Marcus? So, talking about this nightly rental situation.
Mhm.
So you said that there's an application process.
Mhm.
So does that mean everyone in the whole city could do nightly rentals, or is there some requirements that maybe certain houses don't match that? Kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is something we discussed with the planning commission last week, because right now in our code, any house in Hyde Park that can meet the requirements could be granted the business license to have a short-term rental. And so one of the things that our new city planner wants to work on is doing an overlay zone where we would do a short-term rental overlay. And what that would do is it works just like you would put it on the zoning map and just choose sections of town where we would want to restrict the short-term rentals to. And then it's just kind of like a crosshatch that'll go over the top of the zoning. So it could affect any zone, but only in the areas of town where we feel like the infrastructure is adequate enough, the roads are adequate enough for the traffic, the lots are large enough to have enough parking, et cetera, to accommodate the short-term rentals. And so that's something that we're going to be working on to try and, but again, we can't say no. So let's draw a nice box around it. So as it happens, we can
Logan
make
City
sure
did
it's
something
everywhere.
similar for student housing. They were required to for student housing because
Mhm.
they're considered a university town, but yeah.
So since our new planner is from Moab, which is largely taken over by short-term
Yeah.
rentals, she has a lot of great ideas for how we can avoid succumbing to the same fate.
Yeah.
But existing ones would be grandfathered?
Yeah. If they are valid operating today and they have a license, they'd be grandfathered in. Now, the ones that are operating without a license, those we could still go after and say, nope, you can't do this anymore.
So hold off on this application, tell you.
So
Well, right now it's incomplete, so it is paused. We're waiting for more documents from the applicant.
And Marcus, how many do we have roughly in the city that have license to do that? Is there a dozen or?
Donya knows.
We have about, I think we have 5 that are properly licensed.
Okay.
I believe, in doing some research, we probably have 10 to 11
that are not-
actual rentals.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
I think
Thank you.
it was code where we couldn't go out and search them on the VRBOs and things like that. There's a company that actually did the research, and I have that number, at least as of last year. So, and because although it's not much, the city should be collecting which we didn't have until short time ago, transient room tax. So
Yeah, I will just tell you, I think the tax commission is actually looking at getting a statewide service for that purpose. So they would, send out the word on that or
that would be good, because
anyway.
they're running wild without any, side rails on it, so. Council, do you have anything else?
I'll make a motion that we go home.
We apparently have one other thing. Stephanie made a motion to leave.
I'll second it.
And we got a second.
And we'll second it over here too.
I thought
We got a second, third, fourth.
had to jump in there in a hurry.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 4-0. Let's go. Thank you for coming.